Yeah, where we at? Hey guys, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with Ace Alfalla. I almost called you Alfalfa there real quick. My apologies. Um, and you do a whole mess of things. You do marketing, you do real estate investment, and you do investing in general.
Yeah.
How'd you get there? What was the pivot point where you're just like, all right, I'm going to leave this, I'm going to go here?
Yeah. I'll give you like the quick overview. Just like, I've always, it's funny. I literally just put out a video, like 4 types of entrepreneurs. What type of entrepreneur are you? Because there's all different types of levels of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And, like level 1 is like entrepreneurial tendencies, which are people who work a job. Maybe they have a side hustle. They're selling Pokemon cards or something like that. Level 2 is somebody who, maybe takes it a little bit a step further than that. They're investing in stocks. Maybe they have a second job. Maybe they're doing drop shipping, but they have a full-time job, and that person will probably never leave their job. They don't have the risk tolerance for it. They need the security of the job. And then level 3 is the guy who probably, or girl, who always gets fired, could never keep a job, maybe just never fit the mold, always fought with their manager because they always figured out a better way to do the system. And they probably go out, if the right door opens, they go out and become an entrepreneur at some point in time, but maybe they don't because the right opportunity never, opens up for them, which was kind of where I say I probably fit that mold. And then I graduated to the level 4 entrepreneur. Which is somebody who really goes out and builds a company, has duplication, learns how to build teams and organizations, things that create automation in their business. So they can go out and start other companies and other businesses, which is really, where me and my wife are now. But, ground level, dropped out of school in 10th grade. The school system didn't work for me. If anybody can relate, never fit that mold. Was the person who always questioned the teacher of like, why do we need to learn this if I'm not going to use this in the real world? Always challenged everybody. And then worked all types of crazy jobs, man. I was a tow truck driver. I was selling drugs at one point. I was always looking for some sort of entrepreneurial, foundation. I just didn't know it. And then I got into sales at a young age, and then that just kind of fit the mold for me. Me being in control of how much money I can make based on my merit and how much time and effort I put in, I fell in love with that, right? So, for me, sales was like, I'm renting from this company. I'm renting my space, right? And yes, either I'm getting no salary, or 2, I'm getting a very minimal salary, but I can control, as long as it's for the right company, my own ceiling, or maybe there's not a ceiling at all. And then, I was trying to look for what was past that in my mid-20s, then got into direct marketing, right? Got into direct marketing, multi-level company, became pretty successful in that. And then kind of evolved into what I was doing, what was going past that point. And then I stumbled upon Tai Lopez, right? Everybody knows who Tai Lopez is. And took I took his wholesaling course to learn how to flip houses. And if anybody's not familiar with what wholesaling is, it's actually when you see a home that's underappreciated, it's kind of beat up, and then you approach that homeowner with a quick turnaround on cash below market value because they need the money fast. They give you a contract on consignment, so you had them sign a contract, and now you're the contract holder, guaranteeing you're going to give them money in 30 days, whatever you guys agree upon. Then you take that contract and then you sell it to a fix and flipper, right? Mm-hmm. And you make money as being the middleman, right? So essentially, let's say that that house on the market is worth, let's say, $400,000. I get the contract because it needs a lot of work. I get that contract for like $220,000, $250,000. And then the fix and flipper still needs to put in money to fix the house and then flip it to where they get the $400,000. So I would maybe make anywhere from $5 to maybe $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, depending on what type of house it is. So you're really getting paid, but it's a lot of work, a lot of legwork, a lot of sales, right? A lot of door knocking, a lot of phone calls. So I actually did that. And then I started a marketing company. I took a marketing course, learned about marketing, and kind of dove head first into that. I worked at a company where I was director of sales and marketing, so kind of had the background, and started the company FMO Media a couple of years back, knocking on doors, basically selling restaurants in the beginning. It's kind of the ground level. Whenever you meet somebody in the digital marketing space, they always like restaurants is the easiest business to get in, so they always try and sell restaurants, right? It's food, it's sexy, it's food porn, cheese pulls, you can do all that type of stuff. Restaurants are easy to fire and hire new people. So we got in at the ground level, built up to maybe 100 clients, the first year and a half. And, it was like, all right, where do we go past this point? I realized that the food industry wasn't the end game for us. So we got into professional services right away, real estate, mortgage brokers, lawyers, doctors, people who could cut bigger checks and have more of the longer term vision. Their cash flow isn't as up and down. There wasn't anything affecting the world, right? Where they had to shut down businesses like we've seen. So we basically built our portfolio for the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years. We're now about 80% of our portfolio is in the real estate industry. So a lot of real estate agents, brokers, mortgage brokers, loan officers, real estate attorneys. So we kind of took, I don't want to say took that over, but we went from just being in New York to now we're in 48 of the 50 states. We went from me and my wife, Jamie, and one of our best friends in the company to now almost 50 employees and growing. We'll probably be, honestly, the way we're growing, we'll probably be at 80, 100 employees probably in the next 6 to 12 months. And the company's growing. We actually, really cool story. I did a podcast about a year ago and was introduced through my friend Chase introduced me to somebody called Joe Catrone. And turns out he works for Gary Vee. So Joe Catrone worked at VaynerMedia, and then when Sasha Group broke off and created its own group, right? When Gary said, "Hey, you know what? I need to hit small to mid-sized businesses, not just the Coca-Colas of the world." Joe kind of helped lead up that team, and I kept that relationship with him from the podcast. So I would call Joe up from time to time and pick his brain because I really didn't have any mentorship when it came to marketing. I was kind of just figuring this whole thing out, so I would pick his brain. And then one Jay was like, "Hey, you know what, Ace? Instead of calling me up, bugging me all the time, there's this cool 4Ds program that's coming up. You pay for it. It's X amount of dollars. And we get a handful of business owners, like 6 to 8 business owners around the world. And it's a full day education. Just the best of the best on Gary's team does the training, and you get an hour with Gary. So, so that was really exciting. We got a chance to meet Gary through Zoom, and I learned a ton through there. But then the cooler part was we had an hour to talk to Gary, and Joe put us as the last people to speak with him, and they ran out of time. They ran out of time, so we couldn't speak to Gary, which sucked. But then the cool part was Joe was able to set us a one-on-one time to speak with Gary on Friday, where it was just me, my wife, and Gary, and we got like a good 20 minutes with him, picked his brain. Really cool. So we're actually entertaining doing VaynerMedia has something called the mentorship program, which is really awesome, where we basically work with their team over the next 36 months for the next 3 years. And we're I got they'll give me like a bat phone so I can call these guys directly. And it's all about scalability and growing the company, which is where I'm at now, right? Because to take my company from where it's at to where I want to be, which is, $50 million company in the next 36 months. I've never done that before, so I'm going to need all the help I need and guidance so I don't stumble and make all the mistakes that the typical people will make. But the good news was when I was speaking to Gary, here I am thinking I'm doing terrible. And his words were like, "You're fucking doing awesome. You're killing it. What are you talking about?" So that was definitely some like, okay, awesome. That's good to hear. But we're just getting started. So we got a long way to go. So that's kind of, graduating where I'm at now. And then obviously with money that FMO's making and other resources, where I'm not buying a Lamborghini, I'm not flying first class. I downsized from a 10,000 square foot, 4.5 acre estate in Long Island, and moved to North Carolina and bought a little tiny, $2,300 square foot, $400,000 house. And we're taking that money and putting it back into the business to, grow it quicker and quicker. And anytime we do have any little bit of extra money, we will invest it in real estate. We just bought a boutique hotel in downtown Wilmington. We're putting some money in there to get that, reestablished and back up, upgraded and get, kind of really just like shock value with what we're doing with renovations with downtown. And then we're working on other real estate. We're buying a bunch of other properties and stuff. So there's our real estate arm, which we are spending a lot of time to focus on. Then there's the actual businesses, our startup companies. But we're tripling down on what we know, right? If you got something good going and you find it out, you triple down, man, on what's working, and you eliminate as many distractions as possible, because with some success, more and more doors open, but a lot of it's just distractions, and it'll slow you down. You'll have the goose that lays the golden egg, and the problem is you stop feeding the goose stops giving you the golden eggs, man. So we're just really focused on growing our marketing company, and that's what's important to us. That's where our passion is. That's what we're excited about. That's my spiel, right? My story.
All right. There's a lot. There's so much I want to get into from the real estate figuring. I think that eventually you might have NFT deeds for real estate, maybe going into virtual real estate as well, because that's what I specialize in, whether it's Earth 2 or it's Akomi and veve, that type of universe. And then you said you want to be a $50 million company in 3 years, which sounds like a lot. At what point do you stop? Because you said you have about 50 employees, you want to go to 80. What are you valued at now? What's it going to take to get to 50? And at one point you're just like, all right, this is enough. I don't want to grow anymore.
You know what? I guess that's obviously up to the individual. I would say, but that's like a short-term goal. The 50 million number, that's a 36-month, game plan of just focus, dedication, putting in the time. I'm excited when I work. I'm passionate about it. So me sitting down and doing a 12, 15 hour, 18 hour day is not a big deal. Cause it's like, having a business is like having a kid, and different strokes for different folks, right? Like some people may be really excited about having 5 or 6 kids and putting all their time and energy into that. Me and my wife, we have a 16-year-old and we're like, we're good. We're not going to have any more kids. So our time and attention is to our businesses. And we're excited about that, to see the businesses grow and nourish, right? Like a child would. So there really is no like limit or expectation. And it's not really like a number, because the money's just like it's just it's just a number, right? To kind of track your success, but it's not really like, oh man, if let's say I net 20 million versus 50 million one day, like really what's the difference? That's kind of arbitrary in my mind. So for me, it would really be to goal wise 500 employees one day and be a nine-figure company. I don't know, once I hit that, maybe I won't have the same ambition I have right now and excitement. And maybe I'll say, hey, you know what, maybe I'll sell the company one day if someone wants to acquire it, or, maybe that's where I'll go. Right now, it's almost like I couldn't fathom that. But yeah, the goal is just growth. The goal isn't so much, I would say, I want to grow to be $1 billion company. The goal is, I would like to get to the 10,000 client marker. I would like to be international. I would like to be in Australia and in England and have multinational offices, and really make FMO the brand that is the most recognized marketing company when it comes to professional services. If you're a doctor, FMO is the company I work with. If I'm a lawyer, FMO is the company I work with. If I'm in real estate, hands down, FMO is the only company you think of. So for me, that's probably the end game, is more so that than it is so much arbitrary like number, right? But the money number just helps you realize, an employee number makes you realize this is how many people I'm helping, right? I'm impacting 500 families by cutting their paycheck every couple of weeks. But also the bigger number is, that's how people track it. Are you running a successful company, right? That's the difference between, I run a $500,000 marketing company versus I run a $500 million marketing company. Obviously, people are going to determine one is more successful than the other.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a little too much stress for me to handle. Not just having a 9-figure company, but having 500 employees and having 500 employees' problems that you have to try to deal with, because you have to be somebody that someone's having a bad day, like their aunt passed away, or they go and their ex-girlfriend is pregnant, and now you just have to deal with a lot of issues. That would stress me out. Star Helix says, question, what's one piece of advice you think yourself from 10 years in the future would want to tell you now? I think it would be to slow down, because you can do it too much too fast.
Man, 10 years ago, I'd be 27. And I would probably tell myself to get into actual business faster and sooner, is probably what I would say. Conventional, and some sort of a conventional business of that time, just to start to identify what it actually takes to run a company, getting money together, paying payroll, startup capital, cash flow, operating costs, all the things that you kind of don't learn until you do it. And, we built FMO bootstrapped, right? We didn't have any investors, we didn't borrow any money. The company's debt free. It was strictly from, we got money that we made, we invested it back in the company. We got money, we didn't pay ourselves the first year and a half. We just took all the money, put it back into the company, and most people wouldn't be willing to do that. So I would say that's probably the difference. Is most people are going to go out and start a business because they want to make money, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. And we started a business to grow the company. We were 100% always growth focused, and we were never about like, I can't wait till I make $1 million so I can buy whatever. Which is totally fine. And people feel that way, just not so much for us. And maybe that'll change in a year or two, and I'll be driving a Lamborghini. But right now that stuff doesn't excite me. It's all about the growth and the numbers, and really just how I view the company. And I. Like anything else, like I said, it's like your baby, and how other people talk about your business gets you excited, right? Because it's like, yeah, that's my baby. I put in my time, my effort, and I want to make sure it keeps growing, and I want to make sure we're represented in the right way. So, so I would tell myself, get started sooner. That would be the biggest thing, is get started sooner so you can stumble and fall and figure things out quicker. But, however, because of where I'm at today, at the same time, I probably wouldn't change anything, right?
Yeah.
Because if you change something, I might not be where I'm at now, and everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer in that. Einstein said it best. You can't fix a problem with the same level of thinking that created the problem in the first place. And I can't go out and start something before time, right? Unless I know and fell on my face a couple of times, figured it out, got some coaching, and really kind of maybe just grew some balls and said, I'm gonna do this, right? Because it's tough. If you're working a job and you're starting a side hustle and you're making a little bit of money, it's tough to say, I'm going all in now, right? Like this. Threw a balls to the wall. It's a scary thing, So and I get it. Most people want to be in a comfortable spot where once they're making more money, then they can go all in, which is fine, But that's that difference between entrepreneur 2 and 3, right? Entrepreneur 3 will just go all in because they have high risk tolerance. Entrepreneur 2 is going to be a lot safer about it, doing it, and one's not wrong and one's not right. It's just based on someone's DNA and how they operate.
Yeah, no, that's all about just playing offense, going all in, like Hail Marying it. And you did like a vintage Gary Vee thing too, going from a big house, going to a smaller house, just so you could take that extra cash, put it into your business.
Yeah.
I right now, you can't tell right now, but I live in like a 1-bedroom apartment doing the same exact thing.
Awesome.
Been doing that for a couple of years also. So it's been pretty interesting. And have you ever thought about going virtual, like going into like virtual real estate? As like, they had the game like Second Life or that Earth 2 or Comey the Veveverse, that type of deal?
No, I'm not that familiar with that. No, explain it to me. What is that?
Oh, it's crazy. So you go in and it could be, let's say, a game that's already out there, like Decentraland, which is on, basically you have these pieces of land, it's a finite amount, and it's on the blockchain, so they're all NFTs, and you go in and you say, hey, I'm going to pay, $10,000 for X amount of pieces of land. And then you get them, and because there's a finite amount, they all get bought up. People want that land just to do stuff with, just to host games on it, to host virtual reality types of things on it, and then you could rent it out. And instead of paying, taxes on it, and instead of paying, the utilities and stuff, you don't have to do that. That's why I never really bought land in the real world in Earth 1, but in virtual reality, it just seems to make a lot more sense. You don't have to replace the washer dryer. You don't focus on utilities. You could just go in and basically it's encoded into the smart contracts saying that, oh, as you do this, I can get a piece of the revenue. I saw you did have you were talking with someone about NFTs. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm familiar with NFTs. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, NFT art, I dove into that. Obviously I'm seeing NFTs as it's spreading out, obviously, into the music industry and other areas. I haven't spent much time on the real estate space on how it's impacting that, but now after this, I got to jump on and do a bunch of research.
Yeah, it's great. Have you? So you said NFT art, and I know he was talking about going with ETH. Have you heard of Comey or veve?
No.
They make NFTs, but the NFTs that they make they have these crazy partnerships with Marvel, DC, Cartoon Network, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, like pretty much like it's all about marketing. Alfred Archon, who's this guy that has what do you call it? He was the one that brought Pokemon to the United States. He made it from Pocket Monsters. He's the reason we call it Pokemon. And they make those digital licensed NFTs. And right now they're only on this thing called the veve app. So like they're not even on OpenSea. You can't really buy them anywhere except for the app. They'll be on there next month. but it's crazy bananas. What type of art do you buy? Like, do you buy like the Bored Apes? Do you buy like the Yacht Club? Do you buy what type of stuff you into?
Yeah, I bought you know the Crunchy Ape series that the gentleman that I had on
Yeah.
Rob Maloney, he made a couple, so I was looking into a few of those. I haven't been big on purchasing anything too crazy yet, just because as you know, everything's so nuts right now. It's like a lot of it's it's like I almost look at like the NFT, what's going on with the NFT platform. It's just like it's kind of like the .com boom where everything's nuts right now. And it's like, who knows, or just crypto in general, where there's just so many cryptocurrencies that are on blockchains that are worth nothing. There's no real technology behind it, but there's a few really good ones out there that will stand the test of time. And I feel like that's like kind of gonna be like the NFT space where there's just so much going on constantly in so many different places. I'm very curious to see how it plays out over the next 36 months and to see what's still around, what it evolves into. And kind of, because like anything else, the market kind of decides what stays, what goes, what's working, what technology people like or are going to use. And, what's kind of around the next 36 months. I'm very, very curious about it because right now, like, it's very one-dimensional with the art space when we know it's going to be much bigger than that,
Yeah, I can't wait to go and see, and not that I can't wait for it, but I'm curious to see what happens in the bear market where we have like a major downturn like we did in 2020, and you see a bunch of these crappier companies not based on anything, they kind of go to the wayside, where that money goes.
Yeah.
How did you guys react to in that year of 2020 when things were shut down, and how did you guys survive? How did you guys explode?
Yeah. Good question, man. For a second, I was like, holy shit, we're finished. For like a 1 second, I was like, holy God, nobody could prepare for what happened. Right. So, but we pivoted like anything else. We said, well, what industries are still booming? Where can we pivot to? Luckily, we're not pigeonholed to one industry. So we pivoted from being kind of like all over the place or heavy in hospitality, which was totally shut down at the time, to pivoting to what was still around. The real estate market was exploding, right? As we know, and it still is. So we pivoted to where the money was. It's like, that's where the money was. So we pivoted to real estate really hard. And, really cool. We ended up 10xing, that year, so we went from, it went from what was a curse to one of the biggest blessings, because we just exploded. And then we kind of found our rhythm, and we realized, hey, that's what we're good at, is really the professional service and kind of not small, but I would say kind of like mid-tier marketing, where it's like, sometimes I have some of our friends reach out to us and say, I don't think you could afford us, but it's like kind of that mid-tier, more established business that's looking for marketing services and is really serious and gets it, right? Because there's a lot of people who say, oh, I need to do marketing, but they don't even know what the hell that means, right? They don't really know. Like, it's hard to put a real ROI behind marketing, depending on the marketing you're getting into, right? Because if someone's like, yeah, I want to be branded, I want everybody in my community to know me, it's like, okay, that right? it's like hey, that takes time. That doesn't happen overnight. And most people, they can just wave a wand, and in 90 days, magic ROI, they're going to have hundreds of sales coming. When it's the long game. Marketing is the long game, and everybody thinks so short term. It's like even you with putting out this, this podcast and building your YouTube channel, you're in it for the long game. You already know year 1, year 2, year 3, you're going to eat shit. It's like not that much is going to happen, right? Not that much is going to happen. It really takes time to get the momentum going, especially on a platform like YouTube or any of the social accounts. And that's why TikTok is so massive right now, is because you can still explode organically on TikTok. You can still explode organically on LinkedIn, which a lot of people don't put out enough content on LinkedIn. And you have this temporary growth that you can possibly have on Instagram Reels right now, which is probably going to be disappear in the next 6 months. So when a trend or something happens, most people wait too long to take action, and then they miss the boat and the opportunity, and that happens over and over again. So most people just don't pull the trigger. Just like back to your question about things shutting down, most people who took too long to pull the trigger and pivot, they went out of business, or they lost a lot of money, or whatever happened. So people think too long and they don't execute fast enough with everything, and they usually miss it. So we got lucky. We were blessed. We were able to pivot and make some things happen for sure.
Oh, nice. Good for you guys. Yeah, I did. I started like last March, like in March of 2020. Trying making YouTube videos just off like Pokemon sales data, like what certain cards sold for. And I had like maybe like 7 or 11 subscribers, something like that. And then eventually, after a few months, started a little audience, couple hundred subscribers, got into more gaming like Earth 2, and then I got into NFTs, cryptocurrency. I finally got partnered in January, but yeah, I may put in a bunch of time, didn't make anything for like 8, 9 months before I finally got partnered. So I'm making a little something. And your suggestion, even now, with the small channel, would be to make TikTok. Yeah, I could totally do that. How do you make content on LinkedIn? Isn't it just like a, hey, find me here, 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 and here?
No, yeah, good you brought that up. So LinkedIn right now is like any other platform. It's I don't want to say it's late on evolution. The evolution's been a little slower. Where if you think about what if we rewind back time to what we saw on Facebook, right? Facebook was super organic. You would post something up, everybody would see it. Then it started getting saturated with the people and the posts. And then whenever you advertise, you allowed for paid ads, it gets saturated even faster. And people's brains kind of shut off. And as we know, it got older as well, the platform. But now the same thing happened with Instagram. Paid ads leads to a lot of saturation. Now TikTok is starting to do paid ads also. And it leads to more saturation. But LinkedIn, you can also do paid ads. But LinkedIn, even though it's professional services, if you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, you'll see people are selling products now on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is becoming more and more social than just business. And it's becoming more acceptable. But the cool part is you can literally put out a post about Pokemon or whatever it is you're passionate about, and there'll still be a network of people who will associate with that. And the cool part is you could have 5 connections on LinkedIn, and you could have 10,000 people view it and organically reach out to you, even though you only have 5 people. So that's why LinkedIn is so powerful. And you got to remember who's your audience. So you got to remember if it's B2B. So for us, I'm looking for other business owners. So LinkedIn originally was massive on B2B, but now it's kind of evolved into B2C, right? So so business to customer, business to consumer. So you can get a lot of business that way too, because everybody's on LinkedIn, right? Professional or not, and it doesn't have to all be about your job anymore. So whatever content you would push out, the reach would get there. Now the other part is it may not always stay like that. So like we're having this conversation right now. A year could go by, you do nothing on LinkedIn, and then you decide to start doing something, and now it's too late. The organic reach isn't as much. So if I had to tell somebody, hey, I want to build the biggest brand ever and I want to work smart, I would say spend majority of your time. Obviously, you're on YouTube already, which is smart also. It takes a little longer, but I would spend probably double and triple down on TikTok, LinkedIn, and then Reels while it lasts. But LinkedIn, you're going to get a lot of reach on. So I would spend a lot of time, and it's still multi-dimensional, right? So if you put out a really great video that works on TikTok, depending on the content, you can still put it on LinkedIn. If you're talking to the same audience, so it just depends, So like even on my stuff, you'll see a lot of the stuff that's on my TikTok is not on my Instagram, right? Because I talk a lot more about like about crypto, let's say, and stuff like that on my TikTok, but I don't have the same audience on my Instagram, so I'm not posting any of that stuff on my Instagram. And I know that for B2B, right? For a lot of realtors and brokers who check me out, I can't have a bunch of random stuff that has nothing to do with marketing and social media tips, right? That kind of makes some sense. Right? So you want to keep in mind of who's your audience on there, So now on LinkedIn, I'm starting to get more and more of my own content out there, but I have to be smart about what's my audience, who am I trying to attract, what am I trying to sell, right? Who am I trying to talk to, who am I trying to get to watch my content? So that's just the biggest thing. What platform you're on. Now, if you're starting from scratch and nobody knows who you are, then great, you can put out whatever the hell you want. But I do feel like TikTok is the platform to put out whatever you love the most, right? And you don't have to be as professional on TikTok at all and just put out whatever, So that would be a great place for you to put out like Pokemon stuff, blockchain stuff, crypto stuff, NFT stuff. And that's so hot. You'll see if you go to my TikTok, whenever I have like 1 or 2 or 8 million views on some of my posts, it's always talking about crypto stuff.
Oh wow.
It's always talking about crypto.
I have, and the reason I stopped it, because I have a couple videos on there, maybe like 10 or 20, is because every time I go on there and I post a video, I spend like a half hour on there just watching the stupidest stuff. It's always just like, and it's not even like, some of it's entertaining, but it's like people like restocking their fridges or just people like doing like a crisp like vacuum cleaner. It's like, this is so stupid. Why am I watching this? I don't understand it. So I guess
I'm gonna tell you the cheat code right now. This is what most people will never do, right? So when we talk about the algorithm, or people hate the algorithm on any platform, the algorithm gives you exactly what you want, right? And that's what people don't realize. So let's say for me, or for you, or for anybody out there, whenever you like one post, the algorithm is going to give that back to you. Or even if you stop and you watch the video, you didn't even like it, or you scan through someone's Instagram to look at it. If you're a kid and you're just looking at a bunch of girls with big booties, you don't even have to like anything. Guess what? You're going to start to see in your for you page. A bunch of booties. So it's understanding that if you wanted to talk to a specific audience or end user or consumer, only like, follow, comment those people only, and then you'll start to only see that. And those people will begin to see you more as well. So it'll line up more for interaction. So if people stop looking at their social media accounts, all of them, as fun or taking up time, especially if you're a business owner and they treat it like a business tool, it'll produce business for you. Right. So that's the way people need to look at it. So you may all need to go back and unfollow anybody who you don't want to attract. Right. And
it could be so much work.
If you start to think about it like that, you'll start to get what you want. And then you'll say the algorithm is fucking awesome. Right. And that's the trick to the algorithm, is getting used to not using it for fun. If you're a business person, you're trying to track, and using it for business only. And hey, you can create another account if you want to look at the big booty hose if you're one of those kids listening to this, you know. But other than that, it's always going to give you exactly what you're looking, whether you're just looking or liking or anything of it. So if people become aware of that, and it would be difficult, it's work. You'd have to sit there and literally go and unfollow all these people, and then start to think, all right, let me start to like, follow, comment on people who I want to attract, and then you'll start to do that.
So speaking of big booty hose, do you ever see that someone took a screenshot of it? It was this really pretty girl, like leaned over like a pose. She's in a bathing suit, bubble butt, and the Pope's Instagram account liked it. So I'm pretty sure it wasn't the actual Pope. Maybe it was, but I just thought that was really funny. Have you ever seen any stuff like that? It's like, oh, hey, you're liking this. You probably shouldn't be liking this.
I mean, you know, right now we have the team that manages a lot of people's accounts, but yeah, they've seen, they got stories for days about all types of craziness. You know, people slide into people's DMs, all types of funny stuff that pops up. But that's funny.
Yeah. Did you ever get any crazy like tenants that you had to kick out, or any like weird hauntings in any of the places that you go to buy or rebuild, like the Amityville Horror House in Long Island? Like, I don't know if you ever had them as clients.
No, thank God, no. We haven't had any of those. But that is interesting. It's funny being in downtown Wilmington. There's a historic district, and they do like the midnight spook tours, and they do walk you down and talk about all these like ghost stories and all these places. But you know, I mean, who's going to buy a place that's haunted? Or, you know, like some people are into that, most people aren't. But also, if a place is a business that's currently running, they can't talk about it, right? Because it'll be a conflict of interest with the business. So I have no stories for that, and I hope to never have.
Yeah, the Amityville Horror House has new owners like every 5 years. Interesting things like that.
I should tell you something. Right?
Yeah. So when you go to purchase something else, do you borrow against the equity you have in another house or apartment or hotel, and then use those funds?
That's a great question. So so essentially, even with what we're doing right now with some of the bigger properties, we're essentially doing the BRRRR strategy. If people are familiar with the BRRRR strategy, right? So the BRRRR strategy, it's buy, right? It's buy, renovate, rent, refinance. You know, so buy, renovate, rent, refinance. So you buy the place, you put a little bit of money into it. You can also qualify for certain loans if it's a place that needs to get renovated. The bank will actually approve you for loans even easier because they want you to bring up the value of certain neighborhoods. So you buy the place, and that's why you never want to buy the most expensive home or property in the area, because then it's hard to bring up the value, right? So the place you always want to go in and get the undervalued property. Let's say you buy a $300,000 house. The average home around there is $450,000. You know, you put $50,000, $75,000 into the place. Now the house is valued at $450,000 or $500,000. And now when you go to refinance the place and the bank looks at it, they appraise it for the 500 numbers. You refinance it, you pull all that money out, and now the extra equity, you go and you do it again, right? So that's essentially the BRRRR strategy, and it's the same thing you can do with commercial real estate also. You're just playing with bigger numbers. You know, you buy something for $2 million, 2.5, you put $1 million into it, now it's worth 5.5, you refinance, and then you go buy another hotel or two for 2-3 million, you know, so that strategy is the best strategy for somebody to start off with. Do the education if they get educated enough. I think most people aren't educated on real estate enough, and most people, especially if you live in New York or any cities that it's difficult to live in because it's overpriced, is most people don't realize that they can afford a house probably right now with their current salary. They just never actually sat down with a lender to figure out what's my credit score need to be, how much money do I need to make, do I have W-2s for the last 2 years to show that, have I changed industries in my job and now the 2 year starts over again, am I self-employed, all these different things that they don't know. And I would say most of the time they're surprised and they're like, hey, I can buy a house right now, I don't need as much as I think, right? Because if they do an FHA loan, they only need 3 to 5% down. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, if you only put 3 to 5% down, then you're going to have to pay more, more of the BPI and a couple $100. But it just all depends on your end game plan. Again, that entrepreneur 1 through 4, right? Yeah. If you're somebody 3 or 4, your risk tolerance is higher. And I would say if you're in the 3 to 4 entrepreneurial status, buying whatever house you're buying, you probably already know that's not going to be your dream house that you live in forever. That's probably just a temporary house till you get into another house. And that's how me and my wife have always viewed it. So if you're not going to buy in the house and stay in it forever, don't worry about putting 20% down, because the way I look at it is like, hey, that extra 15% or 18%, I can go buy another property or put that money somewhere else that makes me more money. So the way I always view it is, why tie up money when that money can help you make more money? So it just depends what anybody's thought process is. And that's why there's never a wrong or a right answer to anything when it comes to like finance and business, because everybody's strategy is different. Everybody's risk tolerance is different. Some people can't sleep at night knowing that they owe money to anybody, and that's fine. Like I sleep like a baby, right? And I mean, if you look at the richest people in the world, the richest, all of them owe the most amount of money than anybody else. Because the rich, the super ultra rich, what they do is they borrow against any assets they have, and they're paying interest back at like 1%, and then they're taking that money to make more money with it, right? And you have to be smart with how you do it and get educated on how to do that correctly, because most people aren't disciplined and they'll get in a ton of debt and they don't understand that, and they're not using their money to make more money, and they're getting bad loans and bad interest rates. So, but if people really got educated about that, that's exactly what you do in real estate, right? The people. You look at Grant Cardone, the dude's worth $2 billion, right?
So much. That's just so much money.
But he's worth $2 billion. He doesn't make $2 billion, right? So that means he's in $2 billion plus worth of debt is what he means, right? But his apartments are paying X amount in millions of dollars, and then he's profiting X amount in millions of dollars. And since when you buy a house, as long as you have a renter paying it, you don't owe any money. As when you look at your cash to debt ratio, you're awesome. So most people just don't spend enough time getting educated on a lot of this stuff. So that's why they just say arbitrary stuff. And that's why a lot of people don't like to talk about money, is because they're just not educated on money. When it's like, money should be the funnest thing to talk about, because that helps you progress as a tool in life. The goal isn't to have a bunch of money and buy a bunch of dumb stuff. It's like, hey, money's just a tool to help me move forward in life and take care of the people I love and do exciting stuff that I'm excited about, right? It's like, hey man, someone's excited about, building a YouTube channel to talk to X people about whatever, or building their own blockchain one day, or doing that money is just a tool to put together and maybe assemble a team to do whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So that's all money is. Money is just a tool to do very, very exciting stuff that you're passionate about, to live out.
No, I love it. I can't get enough. I can't get enough. I need more crypto. When you go and you mentioned, buildings worth a couple million versus buildings houses worth a couple $100,000. Yeah. Are you done with houses that are only worth a couple $100,000 because it's not worth it to you, and are only going to focus on the 7-figure projects?
I'm not. I actually, it's funny. I did actually just buy. I bought 2 homes that were Airbnb, and they were not expensive properties. It really depends where you're at. So like in North Carolina, it was a brand new house in downtown for $250,000. Like brand new. It was literally bought and nobody lived in there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
So and it's all ROI, right? So you look at, hey, if I bought this house for $250,000, I put, all in closing cost, everything, 20 something thousand. Now I own the house. I own 100, I own, I owe 200K ish, right, on it. And my mortgage payment is like, with taxes and everything, $1,500 a month. So not there. So and now you look at like, well, what can I Airbnb a night for that? You know, 250, you know, 250 a night, let's say on average. So now you're talking about a weekend. You're talking about a weekend. I just made $750. I made 2 weekends is $1,500. I'm making $3K just on the weekends a month. And now you add in a couple of weekdays, and now you're making $4,000. You're profitable. You're pretty good right there. You're making 2-3x on that house. And now you get a couple of those. It's paying for itself. You know what I'm saying? It's Airbnb is definitely, if you're in a city where you can do it, it makes total sense. And you're not going to become rich doing that. But also it's more so for it was for me to figure out, like, how do you do this Airbnb thing and kind of test the waters on a smaller level before you go really big, right? So I'm really big on the education part. So that way, you know, you go slow so you can move really fast. So now that I got it all figured out, hey, if I wanted to buy 10, 15 of those and do it, I could do it like that and know the area and know how to get, you know what I'm saying? So start small. It's not a big deal. Most people are probably going to start small anyway. It's a good place to start. And you don't need to get the Airbnb in the same city you live in, because if you live in like in New York or California or somewhere where Airbnb is like blacklisted, you're probably going to have to buy an Airbnb in another city anyway. You know, so just be smart about it. Get super educated on how things work before you pull the trigger.
So you said you have employees. Like any one of your employees, do they manage that house for you, so you don't have to constantly go into like, oh, here's the key and here's the rules? You have an employee doing that?
We don't. We're kind of doing it all. We're very hands-on right now to figure it out. It's just like running the hotel. You know, it's like, although now it's automated, the first 2 months I was the person opening the door. I was there at 7 a.m. I was leaving at next time. I was in the kitchen. I was the one serving food, you know, during breakfast. You know, so it's like, you know, I wanted to be in there and learn all that, because it's hard to teach it if you haven't done it. You haven't been in the trenches, you know. So I went in there, kind of figured it all out. Didn't spend much time. Then we hired a team, and now the place is automated. Now we're lucky if we're there once a month or something like that. So same thing with the Airbnb stuff. We wanted to be in the trenches, figure it out, and that way, you know, it's hard to hire somebody and tell them what to do when you haven't done it, right? So it's hard to manage someone if you don't know how to manage you know, the tasks of the day-to-day operation. So we went in there from the ground up and just figured it all out. And now we have a team, and now it's automated doing that. And it was our first time buying a hotel, right? We have never done that before, but now it taught us all the learning lessons. And even right now we're going through a bunch of learning lessons that we're unfamiliar with renovating the entire place. And it's a pretty big project where now when we do the next project, which we're in the process of picking up another one in the next 45 days, it'll be quicker, easy, simple, because now we did it already.
Yeah. How do you go? What's your criteria for declining people? Because my friend Lou's got a place in Key West, and he doesn't know anything about it. There's a company down there, and they say, hey, we take care of everything. All we do is we take 20% of the profits that you generate each month. And he's like, there's more than enough. Yeah, that's fine. Just so I don't have to deal with the headache. Yeah. What's your criteria of like, who do you say like, probably not going to do this for you? And about declining them.
You know, that's the problem. Like if you only have a handful or very small amount of properties, 20% is a big number. You know, when you look at your profits, you have a couple of months that aren't that great, and you're lucky if you're breaking even. You know, so my recommendation and hey man, I'm a big believer in mentorship, online courses. I paid for so many online courses, you know, and one of the courses I took was actually one of Grant Cardone's courses, and he talks about exactly that, a property manager taking 20%. And that was part of the reason why we said we're going to do it all, because he's like, when you really crunch the number, you know, when you have a portfolio, maybe 5-10 properties or smaller, you're not really making that much money year 1, year 2, and you got to figure it out, and you got to figure out how to do the math. And when you have someone that's there collecting 20%, and you don't know if they're going to be doing a good job, also there's just a lot of more question marks.
Maybe skimming off the top a little bit. Also,
there's just a lot more going into that, where it's just like you're probably better off just figuring it out while you're still small, doing it yourself, getting the extra 20%. I get it. If someone does well financially, it may not make sense for them to do that. But for us right now, we're doing it. We're at small. Everything's within a driving distance of 5 or 10 minutes for us. So it's really not a big deal, you know. So
I know you mentioned before the colorful history of the jobs that you did beforehand. Anything that you wanted to do, like when you were younger, and you wound up doing, and you just didn't like it, or you just I realized I'm never going to be like a singer or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I always wanted to be a firefighter. That was like my dream job, was to be a New York City firefighter. And just because they only work 2 days a week, and you can have off 5 days, and just you're in, you're out, 48-hour shifts, and that was my initial dream, but it was just because I was big in the gym, and at that point in time in my life, and my dad always was big on pension, right? Your parents sometimes try and instill like all the mistakes they made, so you don't make them. And my dad didn't get a pension when he retired, so I was like kind of like, oh yeah, I'll do that. But I didn't end up getting the job because I actually got hit over the head and I got a plate in my head. And all the medical examiners, I took the NYPD cop test, the state troopers test, the environmental police officers, the correction. I took every city job you could take. None of them would take me because of the plate I had in my head, because I would never pass the medical exam. So I would fail all of them. So it's kind of crazy how most people don't realize that, you missing what you think is the biggest opportunity in your life, is the best thing that could ever happen to you, because you're probably meant to do bigger and better things, as long as you don't lose that drive and passion for just shifting and putting it somewhere else. So at the time when I was like, well, shit, what am I going to do now with my life? I was kind of like dead set on like some sort of a city job. Other opportunities arose. And it's funny that I took all those tests probably when I was like 18, 19, 20, and it takes forever for them to call you, 4 years, 5 years, whatever. It's funny, when I was 25, I actually did, the FDNY actually had a class action lawsuit, because if you mark that you were a minority, whether you were Black, Spanish, whatever, and I'm Puerto Rican, so I marked that I was Latino, and I was like, I get the extra 5 points, which is awesome. And the problem was they took all those people and put them to the bottom of the testing line, so they never called me.
You're so racist.
Right? So they called me. So even though I got like 100 and something on the score or whatever, like I got like a 95, and with living in New York City, I got 5 points, and with being a minority, I got 5 points. I was like, I got like 105 score, pretty good, right? So so even though that happened, they never called me. So there was a class action lawsuit, because I guess if you were a minority, they just didn't reach out to you. So so what they were willing to give me was lost time. So they would have gave me 4 years already on the job, and a bunch of other stuff. But because I had already started my entrepreneurial journey at that time, I just knew that's not what's supposed to happen in my life right now. I'm not supposed to be an fireman. So it's just kind of crazy how as like the thing you always wanted finally comes back, and you're like, nah, I'm good. I don't want it anymore. It's not meant to be. So some people shouldn't be so dead focused on like tunnel vision on one thing. And don't get me wrong, give it everything you got to get it. A lot of that was medical, it was really out of my hands. So it's just understanding that, okay, cool, maybe I'm supposed to do something else with my life. And then you're like, thank God I didn't settle for X, So that was my story on that. So I wasn't supposed to work for anybody.
and wanting to be specifically a firefighter, I know you took every test. Did that have anything to do with like 9/11 and seeing like all these like heroes going in and kind of being like rock stars afterwards? Like, oh, you're a firefighter, let me go like buy a dinner, let me go buy a drink.
You know what? And this is like, I was 17 during 9/11, turning 18 that October. So it was like I had already wanted to be a firefighter even prior to 9/11 happening. So it was just instilled. All my brothers were in the military. My brother was a cop. Two of my neighbors were firefighters. So my next door neighbor, another neighbor, was a cop. So like everybody was like city cop or fireman. So just in my head growing up around that, you're just like, oh, I want to do what everybody else does, because my next door neighbor across the street is always home. The dude is jacked. He's always in the gym. He does construction on the side, and he's a bartender at night. He owns 2 houses on the block. So it's like, you look like, oh, this guy's doing good. Like that's like a career, so you're influenced, you're growing up, you're easily influenced by what's happening around you. And that's everybody, right? It's like, as you're growing up, you kind of like are influenced by mom, dad, friends, family. And that's why who you hang around and who you associate with is so important, because whether you like it or not, the people you surround yourself with are always going to influence you.
Who are your major influences now that you're not, you're an adult? Who are the people you look up to now?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So my major influences now are actually nobody that I actually hang out with in person. It's everybody that's virtual. YouTube has become my best friend. I'm the guy that's on YouTube 24/7, right? I'm playing in my car, when I'm in the shower. I'm always learning or listening to somebody. So my influences now are Grant Cardone. My influences now are Gary Vee. Right? My influences now are all people that are a Patrick Bit David, right, for advice on being an entrepreneur. So all my influences now are they're on YouTube, and they have big social media platforms, and they become successful at whatever industry they're at. And I've done my best to reach out now that I've actually had conversations with Gary Vee, and we're reaching out. It's kind of crazy to be like, it's like a kid, like, oh my God, like I'm talking to so-and-so, and that's kind of crazy, so it's crazy the world we live in, to know that back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, if you saw someone that was famous, right, or popular or on TV, there was no way to ever get exposure to that person. But because of social media, you can literally DM anybody you want, as crazy as that sounds. And yeah, maybe they have a team that monitors that, but maybe they actually open that message and read it, and there, if you keep reaching out and messaging people, and you keep hustling and doing what you're supposed to be doing at whatever business, entrepreneurial task, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you're working the shit out of your job and growing that company. As long as you stay focused and steady, and you stay steady growing as a person, sooner or later, that person will probably connect with you in some way, shape, or form. And it does open the door of opportunity, because why not? You're someone that's obviously following them, you're tagging them, you're DMing them, you're doing all these things. And you have so many platforms. It's like, they got to see one of them. You're telling me Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, I'm saying Facebook. Like, if you message someone, and obviously you don't want to be a stalker, and you got to build some of your own success to make it build a value to them. And I think that's where most people, when you're trying to attract, let's say, I don't want to say people that are above you, more successful than you, but people who are further along in the process, you either have made a statement that brings value to them, or you need to be connecting and bringing value to them when you do connect with them. Otherwise, why are they going to talk to you? So me as a marketing company, let's say if I want to connect with X person, I should be offering free marketing to that person and my employees, and free video and all types of free shit. So I'm giving them free value to say, that's interesting. Who's this guy Ace that's always offering to come in and send me his videographers to follow me around and do a day in the life and help build social posts and do all this stuff. And he even sent me a bunch of cool shit to check out. Now I've gotten attention from that person. So anybody can do that, though. What value can I bring for free to this entrepreneur or this famous person or this whoever, where I can be noticed, right? And if I keep doing it, that'll open the door. So that's like the crazy 2021. Like, it's nuts the world we live in versus 2001 during 9/11. When you had no access to anybody, so I think most people just they're not taking advantage of the great space that we're all in right now. And most of the time, just because they're not doing anything to take advantage of it, right? They're not putting out YouTube. They're not building their own social brand. They haven't maybe figured out what they wanted to do yet in life. And that's all fine, but I would say start executing whatever you're thinking about sooner rather than later, because either way, you got to gain experience and you can figure it out, But long-winded answer to say that, but that's the spiel.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. For me, like, I don't have as many followers you. I know you said on TikTok, how many followers do you have on TikTok?
Like 40-something thousand.
Oh, damn. So I have about a tenth of that on YouTube, and a little bit on Twitter, and I am so it's daunting, like how many like DMs I get. I can't keep up with it. How do you keep up with that, especially with having 500 employees, a wife, and just how does
it's very busy. Very
busy. I can't keep up. I don't know how to do it.
Well, it is. It's hard to find. Like, I know people say like there's a time to turn everything off. It's definitely hard to find that, because there's always, I'm in probably another couple of hundred WhatsApp chats, because we give access to our clients through WhatsApp. Also, so that's part of one of our big sales tools is customer service, where you have real-time access to your marketing company at all times, which is kind of crazy. But it's for business wise, it's all duplication. It's hiring the right people. It's the biggest thing. We're not anything special. We've been really good with finding great people that have helped us run the company and take it to the next level. And we'll continue to do that. But as far as messaging everybody back, I make sure to go back and message and comment back to everybody that leaves every comment. I do that every night when I'm in bed. That's what I'm doing. I'm sitting down and responding to everybody. And especially some of these ones, it's crazy, especially like the crypto ones, man, 'cause everybody's trying to sell something to somebody or do something. So some of those I just ignore. But if someone's asking a genuine question or saying something, I go in there and I try and message them. I follow them. I personally DM them. I try and jump on a podcast like this. That's how I connect with Ryan Maloney on the NFT, because it's all about engagement. And hey, we're all trying to create content. This is a podcast / YouTube video for you, and it's like, hey man, I can get some good content out of this. Also, put this on my own channel. So it's a win for everybody. It's a win for everybody with what we're trying to do in the space, man. But yeah, I don't even remember what the original question was. But yeah. There's no off button was the point. I go and I respond to everybody. I heard Gary Vee talking about how even when he had amassed millions of followers, he was still going in and personally responding to everybody. And it's like, I got nowhere near what he had, so I really got no excuse. So
that's a good point.
Right? When you see what other people do, right? It's like, hey, this dude's running a $300-400 million marketing company, and he has all these other he's doing a million things, and not to say he's more busier because we both have the same amount of time in the day. So everybody's very busy, right? Like I can't say just because someone makes more money doesn't mean they're more busier than you, right? So but it's just as busy as he is, he's finding time to do it. So I got no excuse, So until I hit like 100 million followers or something crazy like that, I would be curious to see what someone at that magnitude does. But yeah, I take the time to do it because that's community, man. That's like the difference between a really big company who keeps the small company feel. And right, and the small company who can't grow into a bigger company, right? Even though they have the small company feel, right? So that's kind of the idea is like, hey man, just keep small in your mind, stay humble, where you're never a big deal, and just respond to everybody.
And what is I guess what's the largest? I know you said you didn't have any investors. Is there any property that you're like, I know this is undervalued, I know I could do this, but you just didn't have the money for just yet? And what is kind of that cap? Is like 10 figures, or I'm sorry, 10 million, give or take.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, there's a lot. I see properties like that all the time. There's properties right now where I want to jump into, and I don't have the money for it yet, right? Or I don't want to overextend myself, right?
In the next like 2 years, would you take on any investors? Like, hey, and like, what would be the things that, knowing that you could make money with it, obviously?
No, yeah. So it's twofold, right? It's right. There's the marketing side where yes, people have approached us to invest in our company and do things to grow it. So I'm always open to entertain any idea to see if it makes sense for the greater good, right? Yeah. And what's good for our people, right? Because that's I always want to look. Hey, what's good for our people that have been with us, right? I don't like to use the word employee. I just like, hey man, our people, we work together to make things happen. And then on a real estate side, I would definitely be open to investors. It's most people. I would say friends and other people I know, they may be limited with their finances or what they're investing, because you got to look, if you're buying a commercial property, let's say, chances are, depending on the loan you're doing, if you're doing an SBA loan, you could possibly do, you could do 10% down.
Those are insane. SBA loans are great.
Yeah, and they're hard to, they're so backed up, it's hard to get. But if you're doing an SBA loan, maybe you could do like 10% down, maybe 15%, but the average commercial loan is going to be 20%. So, you're talking about a $10 million property. How many people have $2 million cash to put down? You still need to get the loan for the other $8 million, so, or even on a smaller level, $2 million, a $2 million property, you still need to come up with $400,000, so it's just a matter now, to be smart, and I think most people should be smart. And hey, maybe you see $1 million property that makes sense in another state that has multi units, and you can't come up with $200K, but you can come up with 50, and you and 3 of your friends all come up with 50K, and now you go 25% each on the property, and you buy it under an LLC. You put 20% down. It's easier to get the loan. And boom, and now you just got to run the numbers to figure who's doing what, and maybe somebody should get a bigger percentage because they're running the property, whatever the hell. But it is something that people could do if they worked with their friends or family or whoever to do that. And there is a couple of properties that we've done that with, so there is a couple of properties where a couple of my friends didn't have a lot of money and they wanted to put their money somewhere, and they're like, hey, can I throw you this and you give me a small percentage of X? And it's like, yeah. Of course. I'm saying so that's definitely something I'm always open to having more. The more heads, the more you win, right? The more brains on something, the better you do. So there was two restaurants that we were part owners in back in New York before we sold our share, and there was a few owners in there. It was great because they did all the operations and all we did was the marketing. So we were very hands off, and it was great. And that worked out for us, right? So it depends on the partnership and what you're bringing to the table, but I always tell people, hey, be more open-minded and get educated on what you actually need, because it's like, how much money you got saved? One of my friends, I got $100K. I'm gonna put $100,000 down, because he bought a $500,000 house. I'm gonna put $100,000 down on this $500,000 house. In my mind, I'm like, what a waste of money, right? Because you can do so much other with that. But the way his brain operated, that made sense to him, which is fine. But he could have took that 100,000 and did what with it to make more cash flow for him this year, rather than he could have stayed renting for another year, took that 100. But that's the whole thing. Not everybody thinks that way, So and you can't convince that people to do stuff either, because if you convince them, they're unhappy, because no matter what, they don't see the long-term vision. Because let's say you do that in year one, you don't make any profit because you're just, you break even or something like that. They think that everybody thinks it's going to happen overnight. So but if you have a bunch of ambitious friends and you got 50K each, you can do some cool stuff, or 100K each or whatever. You can make some big moves.
So if in the next 2 years, or honestly most likely next, or hell, even the end of this year, if you were to have like $1 million from like a friend and say like, hey, this is something that you can go and do whatever you want with, obviously, investment wise, but do whatever you want with a project you always want to do. You haven't had the capital for, here's 7 figures, go nuts. What would you do?
Yeah, so everybody could answer this differently, right? Depending on what they're into, right? So if you're a real estate person, you're going to put into real estate person. If you're a stock person, you're going to invest it into the stock.
For you, what would you get? What would you do with that?
Just to kind of table this the right way, because everybody could say something different. But for me, if I had that $1 million, I would put it into real estate, just because the market's nuts right now, and I'm spending so much time researching. It would be a commercial property. We're looking at this really big property right now, and it's a big, massive project, a hotel that would be right on the water, and that $1 million would just add to the fund, because it's a lot more than that with what I would need. But most likely I would do that. I would say for the safe bet for the average person is probably to put it in the S&P 500 or something like that, and just don't touch it. And let it accumulate. For the average person who doesn't know what they're doing and they don't want to mess up money or something like that, so that would probably be like the safe bet. But for the person who has the risk tolerance in it or something like that, or they could buy a multitude of properties and start building an Airbnb portfolio, would probably be an option that would be really good for the average person if they got really educated about real estate and they studied what markets to go into. And then another great thing to be, if people are familiar with rental arbitrage, if they're familiar with that, it would be something good to research into, because you could, $1 million, man, you can get a portfolio of probably 10 million, 10x. With the million, your year one, because you're talking about the average rental unit to get into and furnish it. What are you talking about? It may be $1,500, $2,000, depending on the city you're in. First, it's not like New York where you need first month's rent, deposit, last month's rent. I look at North Carolina. If it's $1,000, you pay $1,000. That's it. You're in. That's just $1,000. There's no deposit. There's no first month's, last month's rent. So depending on where you go and how you operate that, let's say North Carolina, $1,000 one-bedroom apartment, and then you furnish the place, let's say for $3,000, $4,000, let's just say $5,000, let's just go put up to $6,000. Hey man, you got $600K, you just furnished how many properties, right?
That's true.
100 you now have 100 rental unit a property, creating, I don't know, 2-3 million this year. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends what you're educated into. I would depending on where I'm at, because this answer will probably be different every time you ask me. Right now, honestly, what I would do with that $1 million is I'd probably put it all into FMO and just accelerate the company is probably what I would do. And that's why I'm giving all these other answers, because most people don't probably have a company where they can inject capital into it. So I would probably put that $1 million into accelerating of what I'm trying to do with the marketing company faster. I would do something in real estate is what I would do.
So the reason I ask is because you seem extraordinarily driven. And not only do you, which is very rare to have the mindset of just sizing down your house, like where you live, like where you sleep, putting into the business, but also having a partner that also thinks the same way. Mm-hmm. Like your businesses are your baby. Within the next like 6 months, I don't want to do it this year because I don't want to pay those short-term capital gains. But next year, I put everything into what I was talking before. That OMI token should have several million, if not tens of millions. And I would love to just say like, hey, Ace, if you want to just go in, like do whatever you want, just give me like the rent roll, give me like the breakdown of it, and just make sure we're all good. And yeah, I think that'd be pretty fun. But we have a question from Mike saying, ask your friend if he'd be interested in renting Vivendi spinning logos for his hotel or B&B. I guess, have you ever heard of Vivendi?
No, I have no idea what that is.
All right. Well, Mike, message me on Twitter, or you have FMO, was it FMO, not Productions, FMO Media?
FMO Media.
Yeah, FMO Media or Ace Alfalla on Twitter. What's the best way to reach you? Instagram, Twitter?
Yeah, reach out to me. I would say on my Instagram or my TikTok. I'm spending the most time. Just DM me on Instagram. I'll get back to you right away.
Cool. And for obviously you thrived last year, you like 10x, you said. In the next thing, whether it's a pandemic, black swan event that nobody can see coming, like a World War III, or even if it's just like a downturn in the market, real estate's been up for like 8 years, 9 years. What's your gameplay blueprint for the next economic cycle?
I mean, the whole world is always going to explode every 10 years or so, right? 8 to 10 years, 10 to 15 years. So that's why everything I'm doing right now is really to set up for that. I mean, that's why real estate's so big, because if you think about people pre-pandemic, anybody who had already invested hard in real estate, had multiple properties, right? With what they were doing, they were able to refinance all those homes. So you talk about like a guy, it's really funny, like Meet Kevin, who's on YouTube, a big YouTube star. He refinanced all his homes, pulled out all the cash, took out $700,000, which is what he had, and he put it all into the market. As we know, the market has been a bull market, it's been crazy. So he's earned $700,000 into $24 million over the last 18 months or so. So, but and not to say he knows the market and stuff like that, but people who prepare for the storm, right, are always ready that when the sun comes shining again, right? So preparing for the storm, for me, putting money into real estate and building my real estate portfolio is understanding that whenever that market crash comes again, the money, the housing market will be safe. It's not 2008, that we're not in the same spot. It's a totally different scenario, but people can refinance, pull from assets, right? They can leverage what they have and go out and take advantage of whatever the market is doing, right? Whether it's to buy stocks at an all-time low, right? Because we all know when and great disasters creates great opportunity. So the people who are prepared to take advantage of the opportunity are going to win 10, 100, 1,000x. So really everything I'm doing right now, honestly, would be in preparation of the next explosion. And that's really all it is. It's really just, is it refinancing all the properties? Is it using X amount of capital from what the company's made and buying other marketing companies that are going out of business? Whatever. It can be a million different things. But I would say everything's in preparation for the world exploding. I would say pretty much. And that's why you want to make sure that what you're putting your money in when the explosion happens, that it's not going to be impacted by it, right? So you don't lose your money at the same time. So it's something that shows progressive growth over X amount of years, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's a much better answer than I would have. Like, I would just be like, I'm just going to ride it out, because I could afford to be like, all right, next, like, let's say this thing with Evergrande with China happens, and I don't think that's really going to have any long-term or even short-term big effects. But if that was a thing where it turns into like a 12 to 18-month plunge of the markets and crypto and before recovery, I would have been like, I'll just wait it out. Like that you had a much better answer than I would have. Like, I'll just sit and wait.
I'm not worried about it. Just keep building your business and keep doing whatever you're doing and be the best at it. And when the sun shines, you'll be the man or woman standing. That's what matters.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Do you have any fears of? I mean, I know you say you would probably decent when you were younger because you were around in that area with a bunch of firefighters, cops, and military. But do you have any fear of like losing it all? What's your biggest fear as running this big company with so many employees?
You know what? I honestly have zero fear about that. Just because if I lost it all tomorrow, I would just go do something else and make the money back again. I mean, that's the beauty of acquiring the set of skills and gaining experience over your life, is just nobody can take that away. Nobody can take if you become an expert at whatever the hell it is you're doing, nobody can take that away from you. You know, it's like, so me gaining all the entrepreneurial skills, making the connections, people skills, figuring out how I learn as a person. Nobody can take that away from me. So, and I have too much information. So if the world exploded tomorrow and I started from ground zero, I would be able to probably come back 10 times stronger just because of what I know. And I would learn so much from whatever I failed at. I would obviously not make the same mistakes again. So whether I would come back in a marketing company, maybe I would go full on and real estate 100% and go full on with Airbnb just because I love how everything works there. And I'd go 100% in there. Maybe I'd build something big there. Who knows? You know, yeah. So it's just a matter. Once you acquire the skills, and that's why you just need to keep investing in yourself and learning and getting better and learning and getting better. Nobody can take that away from you. It's the most powerful thing you can do. You know, that's why people who win the lottery, you know, they lose it.
Broke again and like, yeah,
they've never earned it. So like you 10 years from now, having, you know, acquired 10 million users on YouTube. You know, it's just like, if I lost my channel, what would I do? You know what I'm saying? You would acquired so many skills and such a following on multi-dimensional platforms. It wouldn't just be YouTube anymore. Nobody could take it away from you. You're a face. People know you, you know? So it's just understanding once you've acquired a certain amount of success in life, no matter what you've done, especially in the entrepreneurial world, nobody can take it away. And that's why you see time after time, entrepreneur who gained it all and lost it all. Right. As long as they were young enough and ambitious enough and they had the drive still, 9 out of 10 times, they always get it back. And they always come back bigger and stronger. And it is what it is.
Yeah. I have a few people on my, you can tell like the age metrics on the YouTube data sheet and all that. And a couple people like young, like 17, 19. I was like, listen guys, like, cause I'm 30. I was like, I still feel like a kid again. Like, I still feel like I'm wearing like cat flame pants over here. I'm wearing like Nintendo shirt. I don't feel old at all. Did you have any of that? Like, do you have any of fatigue?
No, yeah, dude. You
look great,
dude.
You look better than
I do. I'm turning 38 next month, and I still feel like I'm 16 years old, and that's why. Hey, if you're a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid. You know, like when you're younger, you're in a rush to do everything and you're in a rush to get things you haven't earned or deserved yet. And you feel like life is over. And now I'm 37 and someone who's 18 is like, yo, this dude is old as fuck. Right. And he's about to die soon. But it's understanding it's understanding that, you know, like all the information I've acquired, that's why I wouldn't change anything. You know, like everything I needed to go through to get where I'm at, I wouldn't change a damn thing. So it's fun. You know, everything we're doing right now is fun. Everything you're doing when you're 17, 18, 19, 20. Hey, if you were me, I was a knucklehead. I was 25. I still had no idea what the hell I was going to do with the rest of my life. You know, so it's understanding that you don't have to be in a rush, but you do have to be in a rush. You know what I'm saying? So it's understanding you don't have forever to figure things out. But at the same time, it's like you're still so early in the game. You have plenty of time to fuck up again and again and again and again and again and figure it out. You know, so if you're 18, 19, 20 and you're ambitious enough to be out there figuring out what you want to do with the rest of your life and whatever your career or journey is, that's exciting. You're probably 10 steps ahead of anybody else. You're 7, 8 years in front of where I was when I was 25 years old, when I had no idea what the hell I wanted to do. So if you're young, I would say get out there and taste as many things as you can. Go out there and screw up, figure things out, fall on your face a couple of times because you have plenty of time to, you know, recoup, figure it out, get out of debt, you know, get back up again, especially if you live with your parents. You know, like you have all the time in the world to screw up and figure things out.
I get jealous of some of my subscribers that are like 19, like, hey, listen, I only have like $10,000. I was like, I was 26, just getting out of the military. I had less than $3,000 to my name. You're in a great position right now. Mike says rainbow logos from veve. Question: is there I've just started watching American Horror Story recently. Is there any truth to the fact that when gays move into the neighborhood, the property value goes up because they have such good taste and they like make everything nice? There any truth to that?
I have never heard of that before. Yes,
okay.
I don't know. I have no idea. I've never heard of that before. I have no idea.
Okay. So you said when you were younger, you had a bunch of job descriptions. One, you said you maybe sold a little weed. I think you said drugs, but was it weed? Was it like LSD? Was it mushrooms? And have you ever sampled any of the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds?
I pretty much did everything when I was younger. You know, it was just kind of like whatever was available, you just did. You know, whatever was on TV.
How was that? What was like your favorite one to do? What was you have any crazy breakthroughs?
Honestly, dude, I just like to drink. It all came down to drinking. You know what? Just mathematically, and maybe this is on my entrepreneurial side. I'm like, hey, I could smoke a blunt and be high for 2-3 hours and spend $10 on a dime, or I could take that same $10 and buy 10 Colt 45s that are 99 cents each, 22 ounces, and be totally blitzed and shit faced for the next 12 hours. You know, so I would just maximize my dollar ratio, and it was the same thing for any other drug that was out there, because nothing else would last 10 to 12 hours and be accepted. Where I could be hanging out in the park, go to the corner, buy a 22, drink, come up, hang out, go back and get another one, and do that all freaking day and stretch my $10 out, rather than doing some other drug that was only going to last 2 hours. You know, so.
Can you still do that nowadays? Or can you still find stuff for 99 cents?
I have no idea. Probably not. I'm sure with inflation, it's probably like $3 now or something.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if we could. I mean, I still drink regularly, not regularly, like semi-regularly. But my hangover lasts like 2 days now. Like it does not.
You're getting older, man. That's why I learned if I'm gonna drink, I'm basically done for the next day. I'm like, I'm done for the days. It's really worth it for me anyway to like not get obliterated or have too many drinks, because it just takes up so much energy the next day where I could be doing so many other things. So I try and keep it to 2 glasses of wine. Wine gives you a nice little buzz. I'm big into wine, and I'm good. You know, I get a little buzz, keep it moving, man. Maybe a cocktail here and there, but other than that, I try and keep it a two drink minimum. And,
that's good.
And that's it. That way I could wake up, it's like nothing happened. I'm a big bourbon guy, so I could have 2 glasses of bourbon and I'm all right.
You ever have a screwball?
I have.
Love that stuff. I had it with ginger ale the other day. That tasted amazing. I was like, oh my God. Or I put it in like some tropical smoothie. They had like a peanut butter cup in there. So I put it in the tropical, and that was amazing too. So I have to
try it with that.
The last 16 hours. All right. So final thoughts for people, platform, wherever, what do you want to say to people, young, old, message you want to get out to the world?
Yeah, man. I mean, I would say young, old, no matter who you are. One thing again, I'm 37. I have ran multiple businesses, run a marketing company, and do a really good job at branding other people. And when I met with Gary Vee and his team, the biggest thing he told me was, hey, you've done such a great job branding other people. You haven't spent any time branding yourself. So I could be considered late to the game, but there's no late to the game. The game is always just started right now. So biggest recommendations I could make is start to build as much content as you can to start promoting whatever it is that you're trying to promote. Whatever, I have a company, but it's understanding that you're always going to be the biggest brand ambassador for you. And wherever you go to, you're always going to take you with you. So always spend the most amount of time branding you. The one mistake, if I can rewind back time to 5 years ago, I would have spent way more time branding myself. So my following would be a lot bigger than what it is right now. Because I basically just started like a month ago. Like I literally started my TikTok social media. I started August 3rd. So,
oh my God, so quickly.
So I started August 3rd, and now we have 41,000 followers. And I'm just sticking with it just because I'm being very aggressive, because that's how anything that I want to get in life, I just go balls to the wall and be super aggressive with it. So I've been posting on everything, consistently 2-3 times a day, and start small is the biggest thing I could say. It's like getting in the gym. You're not going to go there and work out every body part and get totally sore and not be able to work out for the next 2 weeks. Start small with one post a day, and then get to 2 posts a day. Get to the point where you're consistently setting aside time in your calendar to create content, or start to document your life so that you're creating content out of that, like what we're doing with this podcast right now. And then start on one platform and move to the other. Start a TikTok, because it's the easiest platform to get started on and the most multidimensional, I would say, right now. Then move over to Instagram and Instagram Reels, which you probably already have one now. Then move over to LinkedIn, then move over to YouTube, then move over to Twitter, and start to progress with where you want to go. And then when you get really good and you start to create long form content like we are right now on YouTube, which is pillar content, you can break that down into a bunch of micro content to use for all your other social media platforms. And that's why long pillar content is the best, because it's easier for him, for Chavez, to sit here and break this podcast into 10 different clips for his Instagram, TikTok, or anywhere else he wants to put it. And then he still has the original video on his YouTube channel. So that's like graduating to where you want to be. But I would say advice is just start to learn and consume what each platform wants and needs, and just pick one and start to slowly put out content. You'll notice when you scroll down your favorite TikTok or Instagram people, if you scroll down, I would say scroll down 20 or 30 of their posts, you'll realize somebody's wearing the same shirt multiple times in their post. And that's because they sat down and they created 20 pieces of content in one day. Yeah. And they've sporadically not put it back to back, but they've mixed it up just like I have, where I'll sit down and create 20 pieces of content. Then about 3 days later, I might create another 20 or 30 pieces of content. And then you start to back up where now you can gain your life back. Your life isn't just about creating content. And now you can start to spread that out and put it where you need to put it. And there's a million ways to do this. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but it's just understanding if it's a lot like building a new muscle and a new habit in your life. But once you start to build a community, and like Chavez just said, where you have people start to reach back to you and say, "Hey, thanks for that, man. I really appreciate your help or the tip or the information you gave on X product, service, video, breaking news, whatever you talked about." That's what keeps you going. It's like, wow, Sarah Jane from Ohio really appreciated this. That gets you excited to say, hey, you know what? Let me keep putting out content because people are actually consuming it and loving what I'm putting out.
Yeah. And you do crypto on TikTok, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of crypto stuff on TikTok. I do a lot of like, if you invested in X crypto, you'd make this much. Or I started doing some stocks also. If you invest in some stocks, that for me, TikTok is a testing platform. It allows me to put stuff out that's random and see if it hits or not. And it's understanding that marketing 101 is the market is always going to decide what they want and what they don't. We don't determine that, so if I put something out and it hits and a bunch of people love it, it's like, okay, cool. If that's something I like and I value and I'm passionate about, let me keep putting it out because it's a win for both parties, right? Rather than me trying to force feed people, right? Depending on whatever your strategy and objective is, I'm just going to keep giving the market what it wants. So yeah, I'm building much more of, I would say, a crypto base on TikTok, and I'm much more of a marketing social media tips and tricks following on Instagram.
So I would say check out the OMI token, OMI. So it's Oscar Mike India for your crypto channel on TikTok. That's pretty much most of the content that I put out. I think I don't know how much you would put, but it literally increased like 15,000% this last year. It went bananas. And it's still only like half a penny, or it's just above half a penny. Wow. I put about more than 85% of my net worth into that.
Wow.
So that's, yes.
My last time going. So OMI token, right?
Yeah. Called Akomi. It was weird because it's only traded now on like Bit4X, Ascendex, or OKEX. It's not on like Coinbase or Gemini or Kraken yet.
It's not big enough yet, right? So it's like, I'm sure it will be. So yeah, I'm gonna look into this, man. I'll look into that. That's why I was supposed to be on this podcast, so I can get that piece of information from you.
Yeah, that would be not financial advice, but I told a bunch of my friends, like, listen, if you could afford to lose the money, just go in, like as much as you're willing to lose.
Just put something in there, right? So it's like, yeah.
And you said you haven't heard of Earth 2 because you haven't done the virtual real estate, right?
No, and I'm gonna have to look into that too. The Earth 2, and I'm writing all this down here, so I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, so it's they're pretty crazy, they're pretty fun. There's a link if you actually watch there's a video down below for the video on YouTube. It's called WTF is veve. Just take a look at that. It's like a 7-minute video or something, or maybe it's a little longer than that. I know obviously you're crazy busy during the day, and you have like 40,000 followers just on TikTok, not including the 11,000 you have on Instagram and probably Facebook and Twitter and all that, and a media company to run. But thank you so much for coming on. Any last questions for me you have before we bounce?
No, man. Thanks for having me, dude. We'll stay in touch. I'm gonna probably be asking you more about the OMI token and stuff like that as I start to look into that. And hey, that's the biggest thing, man, is just getting educated, researching everything that's out there. Obviously, you can't learn everything and do everything, but get educated. If you're passionate about something, put some money into it. I mean, there's a really big company. I've been following them since 2015. They're finally going public. I put a bunch of money in there pre-IPO, it'll shoot up, I'm sure, to a ton, and I'm not going to sell $1. I love what they're about. I'm going to stick for the long game. You know what I'm saying?
Can we learn the name of said company or not?
So the name of the company is called Nightscope. So it's the future of police and security. It's basically RoboCop. It's
like AI, like
it's machines and flying drones and police cars that drive themselves, facial recognition software, all types of crazy. It moves all over the place. It alerts cops. It does a bunch of really cool shit. It's all autonomous, you know, it'll operate. So it's just the future of, you know, security, just private buildings, a lot of government contracts they have already. They work with NASA, you name it, with the who's who. They're in a lot of public malls now.
That'd be great.
So just a lot of cool shit that I'm just like, this is obviously the future. I mean, think about if you have America's Most Wanted and it's able to scan, I think like 10,000 faces a second, and it's in a heavy populated area. It's going to pick up any criminal or anybody with anything like this. So it's got some really cool technology. Obviously, it's always getting better. And I love this since 2015. I legit, you see the car and you're just like, yo, dude, this is RoboCop. Like, this is so RoboCop, you know, or the Matrix or something like that, you know. So I've been following them, and they're about to go public very soon. They just did like an investors meeting and stuff.
Okay,
like
is it Nightscope?
Nightscope, yeah, Nightscope.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right, I'll check it out. I'll see.
So they might be like literally, what's really cool what they're doing is right before they go public, they're allowing the original investors who invested in to double and triple down before the market opens. So I'm definitely going to put a bunch of money in there right before that happens again, even more. Yeah, really cool shit. There's a company called Start Engine. If you guys want to Google it and look at it, Start Engine and there's a couple of them now. But Start Engine is Kevin O'Leary invested a bunch of money in a few years ago, and it basically allows you to invest in companies pre-IPO. So if a company does blow up, you're already ahead of the game. But however, there's a lot of companies that get started and will never go public. So, you know, don't invest what you're not willing to lose.
Yeah. I'd love to do that with SpaceX. Get into them before they go public. I know you can. It's just like the people that you can go and do that with. It's like minimum $100,000 to do, and they take like a certain percentage. So whatever it's worth, like per share, like you have to pay, like if it's 250 shares, pay 350 a share. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's worth it long term.
That's how they make their money, and So Start Engine's like you already know SpaceX is going to be big. So it's a lot of the companies that you get in at the ground level, and you know, you don't have to, you know, the average person can get in on that company. It'll be like minimum $500, minimum $1,000. So lower price points, but yeah, I mean, you got to remember most companies never go public and may never make it. So you just got to be smart with, again, getting educated and looking for what it is. But however, Start Engine itself, you can invest in Start Engine, the company, which Kevin O'Leary and a lot of big time people already invested in. So that's kind of like, the gold rush, right? Don't be the fool rushing to get the gold. Invest in the person selling all the picks and all the devices for the people getting the gold. You know, so Start Engine, I would say, probably is it has a good shot of going public, and we know with Kevin O'Leary and some big names behind it, it can go somewhere. I think it's at like $10 pre-IPO share or something like that. So look into it, but I don't want to hold you up, man. I got to jump off. I got something at 7. So hey, thanks for having me on, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
And cool. I don't know when you plan on getting this out, but if you could, send me over the footage also, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll do. It's streaming now on YouTube. It should be actually everything should be done almost when I can actually send it to you. I'll send it to you on Insta, and then I'll keep in touch when I think I actually tagged it for you on Twitter. I tagged you, FMO Media. All right. So adios. Thank you so much, Ace. All right, I'll catch you all later. All right.
Thanks,
bye, chat. Bye. Meow. All right. I'm gonna go. How do I end the broadcast? Okay. Oh, actually, so I'm still here. He left, so I can go and answer the rest of some of the questions here that we had. What are your thoughts on the future of Earth 2? Hollow buildings, crypto, NFTs? Could veve potentially work with Earth 2? I think eventually, maybe later this decade, like end of the decade, definitely. Like I've already paid people for hollow buildings, like already. I'm like, hey, design this for me. Can you do this, this, and this? They're fine with it. So that's pretty fun. Okay, so no, this is still, for Dr. Professor Kubinski, this is still a down market. Like we were in October, November of 2020 up here, and even though we went down here and we're up here now, like we still haven't reached that peak. There is so much room for these cards to grow. Like I said, it killed me to sell a bunch of these for only. Killed me to sell it. But I'll rewatch later. No problem. Maxwell Cook. Ultra Rare House of X. Oh my god. Ultra Rare House of X. I don't even know the comics. I'm just never gonna sell. I made the mistake of selling a couple comics for some other collectibles that I wanted. Comics obviously went through the roof. Whatever I get, I'm just never gonna sell. Rewind that, and that's pretty much it. Current prices right now and the rate at which we are rising. Talking about veve? Are we talking about Omi? Are we talking about real estate? I mean, Earth 2, they're fine. Yeah, his face is big. Earth 2 is pretty properly rated right now. When we go to the Earth 2 crypto, I think then that thing starts to skyrocket again. For veve and Omi, I would say Omi right now, it is still stupid cheap. If I had more money, I'd invest into it more than I already have. If we're talking about the actual collectibles or comics, I would say that the collectibles are very undervalued as well. The comics, I don't know. A lot of the comics people have a lot of money, but the collectible people that's just going to come from volume, where so many people are going to come in. Comics to me, like again, I love reading comics. I never like collected them. I always had them, but I never collected. So I was a noob. I sold when I shouldn't have, and I went against the very core that was just buy and hodl. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Hope you all liked Ace, and I will catch you all later. All right, bye. Yeah.